things. Now, the issue of icons is definitely something which seems strange to those in the West who, by the way, the Protestants are defined as rejecting icons as one of their tenets, because they want to hold that there is no the law in a literal sense, in the pre-Christ sense of no images of to be created. Now, it's admirable they want to follow the law, but they're misunderstanding the gospel by holding that law. And that law is that Christ is incarnate, and we paint pictures of Christ because he is God and he is man. Therefore, in the Old Testament, you can't paint God because he's not visible. Therefore, if you're trying to paint him, you're assuming that God has some sort of form and image. That's blasphemy. If you're trying to paint an image of something on earth and worship it as God, well, that's also blasphemy, because God is not a creature. A creature is not God. It's a different essence of God. However, Christ is both man and God. Therefore, because he is man, we can draw a picture of him, take a photo of him. That is perfectly legitimate. And because he's God in the union of one hypostasis, the honor of the Christ is worship of God. So we can then therefore paint a picture of it, and we're painting that picture and honoring the picture and venerating the picture. That veneration goes to God. We don't offer the Eucharist to the picture as such. That we don't give. That's what it means giving worship to that. We don't stick up the worship, the thing is an idol, and sit there and offer the Eucharist to it. But we do venerate it. We offer incense, etc., because that is the prayers of the saints going to God. So we can pray in front of them and with them, and there that is a statement of honor to Christ, but and through that to God, and because God is in the Christ, with God, we're one together, and Christ is in all the saints, and God is in all the saints through the Holy Spirit. So when we honor the saints, we're honoring Christ who's in the saints. They've clothed themselves with Christ. They've got the Holy Spirit in them. They're now, in a sense, integrated in the union with God. So we're honoring God through them. And no matter if we don't honor them, we're denying God's union with them, and we're actually dishonoring God for being in them if we're refusing to honor them. And this is where it comes down to. We honor Christ according his flesh is deified, and in honor means that our humanity, our physicality is also integrated into the reality of God, and therefore honoring according to human and physical things is to recognize a union of God and man, and God, humanity is deified through that, and then the physical honor of Christ is an recognition of his physicality, and that is essential to the true definition of the incarnation. Therefore, we give physical honor, and that is the act of kissing the icons. And if we refuse to do that, give that physical honor to him by kissing the icon, again, we're actually denying the incarnation. We're denying the physical union that is there, and the incorporation of a physicality into that union, and the deification of our physicality. We've put it in opposition to that. We're undoing the incarnation. So that is why it's necessary for us to physically kiss the icons, physically prostrate there and honor them in that sense, because we're recognizing the deification of our physicality, as seen at the Transfiguration. His clothes are even shining. And it talks about the apostles, the handkerchiefs, that people want to touch the hem of his garment even. They're not even the physical body, and they get healing through that. So we see the power of God through the physicality, and that our physicality connects us to God through the physicality. So it's an honor of the gospel. And therefore, if you reject venerating icons, you are denying the gospel. That is why it's important. It seems odd why these images, because fundamentally they're a testimony to the gospel, including the worship. And no, not worship of them, the veneration of the icon, the kissing of them, and offering incense, etc. That is what the gospel is. This is a true understanding of the gospel. And those rejecting this actually reject the gospel, teaching this different gospel. So this is why it's essential for that. And people cut off. If you do that, you are rejecting the gospel. because these understand the true meaning of the incarnation. You're inventing something else. You're failing to understand the deification of the flesh, the power of God through the body, the union of the body with Christ. You still think that the body is somehow bad and it's somehow in opposition. You're sort of falling into one of these ancient heresies which thinks all the flesh is evil. No, and the flesh is good in union with God, not according to the things of the flesh, as according as it's deified with God, but the flesh participates in that. And we need to give honor as human beings. We have physical and spiritual creatures. So we need to honor according to the flesh, because that's what it is to be a human being. We're not just spiritual creatures. Otherwise, we deny our humanity. So all these things, and we'll deny Christ's humanity. All these things, we preach in a different gospel, different understand what humanity is. So the different reality. So yes, the icon worship is very much icon veneration is very much an essential part of the thing. But we don't honor, but icon worship. The icon is end in itself, as a piece of wood and stuff. We give the Eucharist to the icon itself. To the Eucharist is always to the Father, who properly isn't an icon. He transcends it. The icon is of Christ, and the honor goes to the Father through Christ, or to Christ and such in there. But we don't put, properly speaking, we shouldn't put the icon of the Father there. That gets problematic. Though in some symbolic senses, like the Trinity icon of Rublev, we can sort of hint at the Trinity in this way, and that's not wrong, but we need to be a bit more careful about actually painting the Father. Unfortunately, there's some slip-ups on that, so be it. But in principle, we don't worship that is offer the liturgy to the icon as if it is God in itself sitting on the top, as if it's some sort of idol. No, we don't do that. That, in other words, that the scene that the Christ is present in the icon, the veneration of the icon, the kissing the icon, so should be engaged physically. It is very beneficial to do us. It's a sense of our body participating in our love for Christ. In doing so, it brings us an attachment to that as proper to our humanity, which is spiritual and physical. And it recognizes Christ's physical and spiritual reality and his divine reality in doing so, and the union of all the saints with that reality and God's reality in all them, and of honoring them as well. So this is fundamental to the gospel, that we do these activities. And even if in the early churches at times when they shied away because of the strength of idolatry, when that idolatry had diminished on the thoughts of men, then our true practice, which is from the beginning, but was fully manifest in our adoration of icons. So yeah, it touches the heart of the gospel. So anyway, I think that's covered that point enough.
Yeah, as far as the veneration of icons, it's mostly a Christological issue, which it's like the culmination of all the previous ecumenical councils. It's a fulfillment. So it's essential to the gospel, like you were saying.
Yes. Well, and it also it is another aspect of, as to the filioque, of the capacity to understand the distinction between nature and hypostasis, which has been probably the most difficult thing to understand. And you either go to Arianism when you pull them apart too far, you go to monophysitism, you go to Nestorianism, you reject icons, you have the filioque, all these things. These are all problems of confusing nature and hypostasis. Even now we've got people arguing about divine person, etc. is another whole big argument among Orthodox is again, it's all about the confusion between hypostasis and nature in God.